Now, the other topic that we all hear a lot about is this lean core, and there is a big debate on how lean is lean, etc. Now, Vandana, I'm conscious you are in the middle of a transformation where you going from, I don't know, X number of ECCs to a lean core S4, especially for finance, right? So tell us about what's your perspective on lean core S4 HANA?
So great question from one debate to the other. I would say, and this debate will continue. Probably we will not be able to solve it in one go, because if we look at the stats, 10 to 15% of top organizations have been successful with S4HANA, which is a minute number compared to the strength of SAP in the world. SAP is a monopoly. Majority of the organizations use SAP for their transactions. So why have we not been successful with so many organizations? And there are many reasons behind it. To your question, Partha, there are organizations who are shifting and trying to go with truly lean, which means less of customizations in the core. That is one thing. Mostly moving towards cloud. With the advent of cloud and being so successful, the SaaS applications, Aribas of the world and Blacklines of the world, High Radius and others, definitely it has put some emphasis on the satellite system, on the surround systems, and that has been successful for some. So why not? That can also work. And in some situations, people put so much emphasis on SAP that SAP itself loses its value. Then you have to find that thin line and the balance. What does good look like for that organization? And again, it comes back to the question which we have been discussing again and again, business case. What is my business case, and what is my value proposition? Do I want to do everything in these systems? Were they inherited? Do I have to continue because that is the way status quo was? Now, if you challenge it, will I disrupt the system and not able to function in the right manner? Then yes, probably that is the right way to do it. But if you are able to do a lot of things in SAP without customizing to a point where it just completely fails, then that is also not a solution. So there are many pros and cons to it. There is no perfect way to synthesize and summarize it, but for an organization, if it makes sense, I would recommend we should do it.
Agree. It's one of those topics, isn't it? How, well, I think we all agree, as you said, customizations, clean core, but to what extent do you lean it out? Because we've seen quite a few projects in the industry where people rightfully have gone for the leanest of lean cores, haven't they, Edwin and Amar? And they've really struggled because there are some challenges with thinning out the ERP almost too much, given the current state of technology. Amar, what's your view?
There are two things everybody needs to understand in that context is technology per se has evolved a lot, right? So, which means our non-differentiating core processes are not changing, but technology at the same time with the advent of AI has moved ahead a lot, right? So, you should always safeguard your core, protect the core, and use technologies like AI and cloud apps and integration, movement in integration to build those satellite solutions which actually give you the business benefits. Because something very important to note, which we talked about last episode, Partha, remember we talked about cross-functional end-to-end process view. Now traditionally you would put all the end-to-end cross-functional process into one box, right? But that then boxes you in, and as you must have seen Vandana before, it will give you the lack of flexibility, right? So this means that if you modularize, put the core in the finance in a standardized way, then use the satellite systems for business value addition, it creates a bigger case, it brings flexibility. And imagine if you would say that, I don't know, today it's high radius, tomorrow it's low radius comes in with a great technology, you can easily move them out, right? So you can put that. So it gives the quote unquote the power back to the organizations that I will take advantage of the new technologies, but I am not stuck by the legacy system, oh, but I cannot change it because my SAP doesn't work. That excuse is going to go away. So hence, keeping the core lean, using AI is the mantra for the next.
I guess if I was being a devil's advocate, I would say, but what about integration? if I have a very lean core and everything is getting done in satellite products, I've got millions of transactions going back and forth. So how do I make sure I can still operate?
Very good question, Partha. And actually, normally this is what is everybody is always asked, as you know very well. And I think what Edwin also mentioned, I think Vandana, you said there is no one answer or one size that fits all. It's all about the organization model, the business model which you're in, the flexibility you want to give the overall organization, the organizational readiness. Maybe you are a centrally driven organization who wants to drive everything in Go. So then maybe you put it all in Go and you have a centralized organization operating on it. But maybe you're an organization who wants to keep the key decisions centrally, but the rest give the peripheries the flexibility and the independence to drive the business, which we are seeing in the next 4-5 years will be the case. Then you need to keep it, we call it loosely coupled, the discussions. Now integration with the advent of APIs, you must have heard about the MAC, which is the microservices, APIs, cloud and headless. This is actually the future, which gives you that flexibility where integration is no more a big deal. It's all about service oriented architecture, microservices. And apologies if I'm sounding very techie, but it's actually the whole point to say is that technology is there to support business transformation. You cannot say, sorry, I cannot transform because my technology is limiting. I think no CIO will ever exist in their role if they talk like this, right? So that would be my answer to integration question.
So look, I think that was a very valuable conversation. Amar, the specific point you made around making the core lean and keeping it clean is well taken. I do agree integration technology has really moved on and people should be mindful of that, right? Not do things that were okay to do 10 years back now. But what about the question of data and data models, right? Talk to us a little bit about, if I have a hub and spoke with a thin core and lots of cloud products around it, I've had a consumer client say that they need 40 to 50 cloud products around a lean S4 to make their end-to-end work, right? In that context, how do you manage data?
Great question, Partha. And if you look at any S4 transformation, and as Vandana pointed out and Edwin also pointed out and previously, data is actually at the core of any S4 transformation, right? So if you are putting a lean core, whether it's a CFIN or S4HANA, when you're looking at it, data has to be a key part of the story. And you are choosing cloud products depending upon their capabilities. But their data models and lean core data models are definitely different. So it is fundamental that before you start the S4 journey, that you are looking at a kind of a unified data model concept and to understand that you actually keep the harmonized and standard data model definition for the organization. That's the only way you can help go back and then drive the changes in the cloud.
Spot on. Because I guess, as you sort of spoke, I was thinking back to conversations we've had, Edwin. I mean, what's the definition of a sales order for a consumer company? Well, nobody told Salesforce and SAP and Hybris and PriceFX to agree on a common definition, right? Now, if you choose all those products, it's your job to make sure you have a common definition. Reflect on that a bit, Edwin, because I've heard you talk about sort of the concept of a data model quite a lot, right? So what is your experience in that space?
Yeah, I think, Partha, and thank you for this excellent question. At the end, if you talk about central finance, for me, it's all about data. And there I also see the link with a full S4 or S4 core implementation. At the end, you really need to make sure that you have an enterprise-wide data model, that you have one company-wide language. So the discussion, and this is maybe a little bit different than your question, Partha, is that we also entered into a lot of discussions of companies who started central finance. Then S4 discussion starts up. Questions asked, does it make sense to do central finance? Now we are discussing S4. And we always said yes. And why is that? Because at the end, no matter if you do only central finance or you do S4, you need to make sure that you create an entity-wide data model. And central finance makes an excellent step. So for me, looking to programs like this, getting your data in order is one of the biggest values you can get out of those programs.
Thank you, Edwin. And then there's the related topic of data lakes and data warehouse. That's for another episode. That was the discussion on CFIN, Lean Core, S4HANA. See you shortly for another episode when we will discuss how to safeguard S4HANA projects. Thank you.